change is something universal. Changes take place everywhere. And Anis Jang is unhappy, she is sad because although she has seen changes taking place in the life of priests, in the life of every person, everywhere throughout India over the last 30 years, there has been no change in the life of the poor rag pickers living in her neighborhood. For these people like Sahib and others, they have remained the same. The miserable life that they used to have has remained the same miserable. There is no change in their life. They are the same poor, the same miserable. With this, we ended the second video and we will continue. This is the third video. Let us see what happens next. What else Anis Jang has got to say about the poor people living in Simapuri. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi and yet miles away from it metaphorically. In this paragraph, there are some words that I think will be quite new to you. These are very important words, you have to know their meanings. Anis Jang is saying that her acquaintance, what is this acquaintance? Acquaintance means knowing. You know someone, you know his name, you know where he is from, you know what he does. It may not be an intimate relation, but you know. That's called acquaintance, porosity, synarchy. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers. Barefoot, we got it earlier. Barefoot means those who are without footwear, those who have no chappal or shoes, they are barefoot. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers. Rag pickers means those who pick rags. A rag is anything that is useless. It may be a piece of cloth. It's something that people have thrown away. And others, the poor people, they have picked it, and by picking it up, they find it somehow useful for them. They sell it, they get some amount of money, and this is how they live their life. So these people who pick rags, who just roam about and pick up things that they find on the way, they are called rag pickers. The author is saying, my acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri. The author gradually had some more closeness with them. They became acquainted. The author and those poor boys, they became well known to each other, and then the author showed her interest to visit their home, and she one day ultimately visited their home in Simapuri. This is the place we have now come to know. So far the author did not tell us where Sahib and his family have migrated to. We just came to know that they have migrated from Dhaka. Their ancestral home was in Dhaka. That was in a very green and beautiful place, but because of the frequent storms that destroyed their home and their fields, they had to leave that place, and now they have come to a big city. Which big city? This we did not know so far. Now we have got it. The author said this is Simapuri. Where is Simapuri? It is a place on the periphery of Delhi. Periphery is a new word. What is this periphery? This means outskirts. What is this outskirts? Outskirts means the end point of something. For example, the outskirts of the city, it means where the city ends and the rural situation, the rural life, the rural atmosphere begins, the end of the city. This place is not that totally a rural place, neither it is a part of the town. It is just the boundary, the margin between the town and the city and the village. So that is called periphery or outskirts. Simapuri, the place where Sahib and the other boys like him and their family live in a very poor condition. This place is Simapuri, and it is on the periphery of Delhi. It means it is on the border of Delhi, yet miles away from it metaphorically. It is not miles away from Delhi, it is on the periphery of Delhi, it is close to Delhi, but metaphorically the author said it is miles away. What does this mean? Metaphorically means you should not take the words for their literal meanings. If you take these words miles away in its literary sense, then it means Simapuri is miles away from Delhi. But the author said no, if you use the meaning of these words miles away, in a metaphorical sense, it means not in the literary sense. This means that geographically or in reality, this place is not miles away from Delhi. But if you look at the standard of living of the people there, then you will think that no, this place cannot be called to be close to Delhi. If it is close to Delhi, which is the capital of India, then the living standard of these people should have been much better. If you look at the living standard of these people, you will never accept the fact that Simapuri is on the periphery of Delhi. You will be compelled to say that Simapuri is miles away from Delhi. So this is what the author means when she says it is a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it metaphorically. In a different sense, it is miles away from Delhi. In real sense, it is not miles away, but in a metaphorical sense, what is the metaphorical sense? That if you look at the reality of life of the people living there, then you will say it is miles away from Delhi. Those who live here are squatters, squatters. Squatters. Who are the squatters? Squatters are those people who occupy a land or a house illegally. They do not have the right to be there. Yes, these people have come, they have migrated from Bangladesh, from Dhaka, because of the devastating storm that have repeatedly destroyed their home and fields. But they are not the real owners. Legally, this place does not belong to them. They have no right to live here. So they are living here illegally. Anyone who lives in a place or occupies a home illegally, not in the legal way, these people are called squatters. So those who live here are squatters who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. Sahib's family is among them. Simapuri was then a wilderness. What is this wilderness? When these people came in 1971, the birth year, the year in which Bangladesh was created, when they came to this place, at that time this place was a wilderness. What is this wilderness? Wilderness is a place which is uninhabited. It means there is no human habitation, no one lives there, there is no building, and it is uncultivated, there is no cultivation. It is also not suitable for living, it is not hospitable, it is not comfortable. A place which is not comfortable or suitable for living, it has no human habitation, it has no growth of vegetable, it is just an abandoned place. Such a place is called wilderness. When these people came in 1971, at that time this place was a wilderness, and the author said it still is. It means still it is wilderness. It means there is no formal or legalized habitation, no building constructed legally by people. Just some people are there. This means it is still a wilderness, but it is not empty. Simapuri was then a wilderness. It still is, but it is no longer empty. It is not empty because people have come and they have occupied the land. Although there is no stable building, there is no habitation in the real sense of the term, in the official term. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. A question may come about, you have to describe Simapuri, how people live there. So Simapuri was a wilderness when they came in 1971. It is still wilderness, but it is not empty. And how do people live there? In structures of mud. Structure is a house or a building. It is something where you can stay, you can live, you can take rest. In structures of mud, you know, this soft form of soil. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, they have made their temporary home with mud. Roofs are made with tin or tarpaulin. With this, they have made some very temporary, very poor cottages, and there is no sewage, drainage or running water. Devoid of is a very, very important term that you should know. Devoid of means without. He is devoid of common sense. It means he has no common sense. This place is devoid of sewage. SEWAGE. Sewage is the disposal of those unwanted things, for example, dirty water or even urines, all those unwanted things, they are called sewage. Their disposal should be there. If you live in a place, in what way those unwanted things, the rubbish things should be disposed of? How should you make the place clean from these things. What to do with these things? Because if you live somewhere, those dirty things will no doubt be produced here, because you are living, you pass stools, you pass urine, you also have things that you have to throw away every day. So, how can you dispose of these things? A system should be there. But in Simapuri, there is no sewage system, no drainage system. What is drainage? Drainage is having drains so that all those useless things, dirty water, all these things can flow away, and the place remains quite healthy. But no, in Simapuri there is no sewage system, no arrangement for disposal of those unwanted things, no sewage, no drainage, no running water. If running water system is not there, it means if there is rain, water will be logged, and this will lead to diseases, or this will lead to unhealthy situation in the place. So, in Simapuri, they leave their temporary home with tin, tarpaulin and mud, and the place has no sewage system, no drainage system, no running water, and here 10,000 red pickers live. They have lived here for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits, but with ration cards that get their names on voters lists and enable them to buy grain. These people are unidentified, they have no identity, they have no permit. The only thing they have is they have got ration cards. With the help of ration cards, they can get their names enrolled in voters list. With the help of ration cards, they can get grains, food items, from rice, dal, etc., from the fair price shop. But why are they living here? They have abandoned, they have left their beautiful place in Dhaka. Why are they living so miserably here? Why? Because the answer is food is more important for survival than an identity. Identity. What is the use of identity if you do not have food in your belly? If you are hungry, what is the use of being dignified or being well known? Yes, for survival, for living, the first need is food. If there is no food in your belly, what will you do? So, these people say food is more important for survival than an identity. If here begins a quotation. These words are spoken by a group of women whom the author asks, why have you left your beautiful place in Dhaka? Why are you here living so miserably? Then a group of women tell this thing, these words are within inverted commas. If at the end of the day we can feed our families, feed is the verb form of food, feed, verb, food, noun. To provide food is feed, eat, and you let someone else eat, it means you feed him. You remember a thing, you let someone remember a thing, it means you remind him. You learn a thing, you let someone else learn a thing, you teach him. So, teach and learn, then eat and feed, see and show. You see, you let someone see, show. And then you have the verb form of food is feed. Verb form of blood is bleed. Blood is noun and bleed is the flow of blood. So, here we have got the word feed. These women, they are saying, if at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach. Aching stomach means a hungry stomach. If you are hungry, if you have not taken food for long, then your stomach will start aching. There will be discomfort in your stomach. It is called aching stomach. We would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain. Yes, our native place, that was a beautiful place, but this place did not give us grain. So, we could not live there. And here, although we have no identity, we have no dignity, no one knows us, but food is more important. So, the women say, if at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain. Say a group of women in tattered saris. Tattered means worn out, old, dirty. This kind of sari they are wearing. When I ask them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers, wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit homes. This is their life of vagabond. They have no identity, they have no definite place of living, and this is how they spend their days. And they say that, the author said, wherever they find food, they pitch their tents. Pitch means set up. They pitch their tents. What is this tent? Tent is a temporary home that you make with the hand with the help of cloth or tarpaulin. You might have seen people who work somewhere during the installation of railway lines or anywhere. A group of workers, they set up a tent. For a few days they will be working in this area, so they are staying in a tent. Tent is a temporary house made of cloth or tarpaulin, etc. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit homes. Transit. What is this transit? Transit is carrying of goods and persons, transportation, you can say. Transit home means they have to be shifted to some other place. They don't have any permanent address. This place is just a transit home. It is just a temporary home. Before going somewhere else, they are just spending some time here. If you are traveling, for example, you are flying from Kolkata to, say you are flying from Kolkata to Jeddah, and your flight will go via Dubai. So in Dubai you will have transit. There you will have a short stay there during your travel. Transit home means temporary home. Before they go to some other place, until they go there, they will be living here. This is their transit home, temporary home. Children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival. Children, they grow up in such homes, in such temporary homes, in such tents, and by growing up they become partners in survival. Survival means life, living. Survive is the noun, survive is the verb, survival is the noun. So children, they grow up and they become part of the survival. Their parents are fighting for survival. They have left their native place. They are living very miserably here. Somehow they are able to provide food to themselves, and these children, when they grow up, they also become a part of the survival strategy. They also become a part of their parents' fight for survival. So survival, what is the means of survival in Simhapuri? Only one means, only one way. Survival in Simhapuri means rag picking. Here the word means is not used in the general sense. One may think survival in Simhapuri means rag picking. No. This can be understood in this way. For example, if we were talking about Hujai, that in Hujai agar wood business is very much common. One can say Hujai means agar wood. Actually, the word Hujai does not mean agar wood, but when we say Hujai means agar wood, it means in Hujai agar wood business is very common. This is exactly what the author says when she says when she means when he says survival in Simhapuri means rag picking. It means rag picking is the most common thing. It is the only means of survival. This may be a question, what is the only means of survival in Simhapuri? The only means of survival, the only way of survival in Simhapuri is rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. So for many years, people are making use of this art. This has become an art now. Rag picking, that you go out in the morning and you start looking for something in the here and there. If you find something useful, for example, you find a bucket or some shoes or some utensils, some spoons, you take them, you sell them, and you get some 10 or 20 rupees. That is your way of survival. And over the years, it has been practiced in this area so much that it has now got the proportions of a fine art. It is as if it is an art. It also requires skills. Who can do better? That determines who will earn more. If you are more skilled in it, you can get up very early, you can go before others, you know which area you have to look for picking up these rags. So this rag picking, although it is something very ordinary, it is a very ordinary job, but over the years in this particular area especially, this activity called rag picking has become so common that it has got an identity as an art. It also requires skills. If you can work better on it, you can progress. Garbage to them is gold. Yes, for these poor people, garbage is not garbage. For them it is gold. What gold is to common people, garbage is to these poor people. It is their daily bread. Their daily bread comes from garbage. It is a roof over their heads. The roof over their heads, they set it up, they make it from garbage. Garbage provides them the materials. They somehow make them able to purchase some tarpaulin or collect some tarpaulin, whether it is the roof over their head or their breakfast, their food, everything comes from garbage. So garbage is their daily bread. It is a roof over their heads. even if it is a leaking roof. Yes, the roof may be leaking, it may not be nice, because when rain comes, rainwater will start falling inside, it will start leaking. Still it is a roof, still it is a structure, still it is somehow a place for living. So this is something significant for them, but for a child it is even more. For a child, this rag picking is something more. What is more? See what Sahib says. He says, I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, Sahib says, his eyes lighting up. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is hope of finding more. Sahib very happily says, I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. This line is very important. This is the headline of this story. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. The small boy, sometimes he finds a rupee, and sometimes even a 10 rupee note. He is so happy that yes, it's a big achievement. And when you find 1 rupee note or a 10 rupee note, then your interest grows, you get more motivated, you become more curious. Every day you go and do it. So when you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging. Yes, when you suddenly you get a silver coin, you cannot stop scrounging, you will scrounge every day. Why? Because there is hope of getting more. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For children, garbage means one thing. For the adults, it means a different thing. What is the difference? For the children, it is wrapped in wonder. Children, for them, this whole area, the garbage, it is something covered in wonder. If you go inside it, if you scrounge more, if you find out more, you can get anything. It may be a 10 rupee note, it may be a silver coin. So for them, it is a wonderful place. Wonder is there, wrapped inside. It is covered inside. Just go and explore it and find it. That is what their mind is. What about the adults? For the elders, it is a means of survival. For the elders, this garbage is not garbage. It is like a gold mine. It is their means of survival. It is their only source of livelihood. This is what Simapuri is. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching 2 young men dressed in white playing tennis. One winter morning, the author found Sahib. What was he doing? Sahib was standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club. In the author's neighborhood, there is a club, and the club boundary is fenced. So the gate is also made of fence. So outside the gate that is made of fence, the author found Sahib standing, and what was he doing? He was watching 2 young men dressed in white. 2 young men dressed in white. White what? No mention. Dressed in white means dressed in white cloth, white trousers and white shirts. This noun is not written. Just white here implies white clothes. 2 young men who were wearing white clothes, and they were playing tennis inside the club compound, and Sahib was just looking from outside, and this the author saw. Then, seeing the author, Sahib said, I like the game. He hums. Hum means to speak in a low voice. Humming sound is the sound of birds, of bees. Bees hum. And when you speak in a low voice, it is hum. He speaks in a low voice. We know from earlier also, Sahib is having low confidence. When the author first asked him, why do you do this? He said, he just looked in a different direction, and he could not look at the author's face. And when the author finds him looking inside the club compound where 2 young men were playing tennis, he tells the author, I like the game. Content means satisfied, to watch it standing behind the fence. Although he likes the game, he cannot be a part of it. He cannot go inside because he belongs to the downtrodden section of the society. He belongs to the deprived class. So he cannot be a part of those people who are the privileged section of the society. They are playing tennis game. It is their job. You ordinary boy, you cannot go inside. So he is satisfied. He is content just by standing and looking at them from outside. But one good news is that he tells the author, I go inside when no one is around. He admits. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. He tells the author that when there is no one, I go inside. The gatekeeper allows me. The gatekeeper must be a kind-hearted man who thinks that the poor boy, let him enjoy. So he allows Sahib. Sahib goes and he uses the swing. Lalita, Lalita. He enjoys it. Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Although Sahib cannot go inside and play tennis, but he is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. If you are wearing tennis shoes, it means you are the one who are going to play tennis. But for Sahib, no. Just he got the shoes somewhere, and what shirt and shorts he is wearing, the dirty shirts and shorts, the discolored shirts and shorts, with that, these tennis shoes do not match. Then when the author looked at them, he gave an explanation. He told the author, someone gave them to me. I got this pair of tennis shoes because someone gave them to me. He says in the manner of an explanation, as if he is explaining to the author how he got it. From his own, he is telling, someone gave it to me. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because refused to wear, W-E-A-R, it should be, in my book it is W-E-R-E, it should be W-E-A-R. The fact that they are discarded shoes, discarded means something that is thrown away, something that is abandoned. Someone has stopped using these shoes because these shoes are not up to his choice, and Sahib has got those shoes. Still, it is not a matter of disgrace for him. For him, whatever be, maybe someone has thrown them away, and then I have got it. What matters? For me, who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them, does not bother him. Someone else has just refused it because there is a small hole. He is a rich man, so a small hole in a shoe is a big thing for him. He has stopped using it. Sahib has got it. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. All his life he has remained without shoes. Now he has got a pair of shoes free. He has picked it up. What is wrong? Let me use it. For me, it is a big thing. It is a big achievement. But the game he is watching so intently means so carefully, with so much of attention, is out of his reach. Somehow he has been able to acquire a pair of shoes, although it belonged to someone else who had thrown it away because maybe there is a hole. But for Sahib, having such a pair of shoes is a big achievement. But so far as the game is concerned, he cannot play it. Although he is wearing tennis shoes, the game called tennis he cannot play. He has to be satisfied with just watching it played by someone else because it is out of his reach. This morning, Sahib is on his way to the milk booth, the small shop, the small booth. Booth is a small compound. You might have got the word booth during election, the polling booth, where it's a small place where you go and you are the only one there at a time. You cast your vote in favor of your chosen candidate. So booth is a small area. Milk booth means it is a small counter where milk is sold. On another occasion, the author said, this morning I see Sahib, he is on his way to the milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. Canister is a container. You might have seen milkman carrying a canister in his bicycle and making katar sound. This is called canister. Suddenly the author finds this morning Sahib is on his way to a milk booth, and in his hand there is a milk canister, steel canister, it is made of steel. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. He shows at a distance to the author. I said, there, down the street, I work in a stall, in a tea stall. I am paid 800 rupees on all my meals. 800 rupees a month I get, and my meals are free. And I work there in the tea stall. And he is carrying a steel canister. He is going to the milk booth to collect milk for the tea stall where he is working now. Does he like the job? This is the question. All these days he was roaming. He didn't have any definite work. He was just picking rags and just scrounging in the garbage dumps somehow to help his family. Now he has got a job, 800 rupees a month, free meals. But the author is asking the question, does he like the job? The author asks him, do you like the job? Instead of saying anything, his face, I see, has lost the carefree look. The author is saying that when I asked this question, what he replied is not mentioned by the author. The author is saying, to my question, I noticed that after I asked the question, I noticed that his face has lost the carefree look. He was carefree earlier, he was bindas. That bindas look is lost now. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. Earlier there was a plastic bag he would carry while scrounging in the garbage dumps. That that was lighter, that was not as heavy as this canister. The canister, it is made of steel, it is heavier. This is one difference. Canister is heavier, it is more painful to carry this. Another difference is that the bag was his. It might have been a plastic bag, it was a very ordinary thing, but still he was the owner of this plastic bag. But now he might be carrying a steel canister, but this belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. This steel canister is not his, it belongs to the owner of the shop. The plastic bag, it was something ordinary, but he was the owner of it. So what has happened to Sahib at the end, in the author's view, is that Sahib is no longer his own master. The author gives priority on freedom, and in her view, Sahib has lost freedom. We may think, yes, he has got a job, it's a better opportunity, but the author said, but he has lost his freedom to roam about freely. He is now working under someone else, so he is no longer his own master. This is the author's idea. What will be our idea is a different thing. And this story ends with this sentence, Sahib is no longer his own master. I told you at the beginning that you compare the two characters. In both the stories, the first one was, I sometimes find a rupee in the garbage. The second story will be, I want to drive a car. In both the stories, miserable life is projected. In both the stories, two small boys are the main characters. In spite of these similarities, there is difference in their outlook, in their attitude, in their mindset. You have to find out the difference. But we end this story and this video also with what the author said. That is important. Sahib is no longer his own master. We will meet again in the next video, the fourth video. We will continue with the story. Thank you very much for being with me.